Studio Microphone Special Report, The World Amid Turbulence. As President Donald Trump unleashes a fresh wave of tariffs, the United States finds itself in a harsh economic trial, one that reverberates far beyond its borders. From empty aisles in Washington supermarkets to outrage in Brussels, Beijing, and Ottawa, the tariff war is carving deep fractures in global relations and shaking the American dream for millions. Meanwhile, on another front in Eastern Europe, tensions escalate as Ukraine announces progress in talks with the UK and France to deploy security forces, a move that could shift the dynamics of the battlefield and provoke a sharp response from Moscow. Global tension is on the rise. These bold decisions are not only shaping the future of nations, but also raising a profound question. Where is the world heading as political and economic storms grow ever more intense? Tariff war, the American dream, in turmoil. When Donald Trump took office, I, along with millions of Americans, hoped he would steer the country through turbulent times marked by war, inflation, and rising costs. Yet, nearly 3 months into his presidency, the reality is far from what we envisioned. We are witnessing an unprecedented level of chaos. President Trump once said, "Tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary." Since his inauguration, he's given Americans plenty of reasons to Google that word. Since January 20th, Trump has imposed tariffs on foreign steel, aluminum, Canadian and Mexican products, Chinese goods, and imported cars. On April 2nd, dubbed Liberation Day, he announced reciprocal tariffs on every country he accused of undermining American products. His erratic tariff policies have sent shockwaves through stock markets, eroded consumer confidence, and blindsided even America's closest allies. Trump insists that trade wars will force companies to return to the U.S. and fulfill his America First vision. But he overlooks one key fact. In the short term, it's American consumers who will pay these import taxes. Empty aisles, rising anxiety. Weekend scenes at Walmart show empty aisles and fewer shoppers. Clear signs that inflation is biting. For working and middle-class Americans, grocery shopping has become a nightmare. Despite recent price drops, eggs still cost twice as much as last year. Meat, fish, and vegetables continue to strain household budgets. Budget chains may be thriving, but foot traffic remains worryingly low. 2 weeks ago, China summoned Walmart executives for allegedly pressuring suppliers to slash prices, shifting the burden of tariffs to them. Tariffs designed to boost domestic car sales are also shaking the foundation of America's consumer-driven economy. In this era of globalization, even the smallest car parts are made across multiple countries. Economists estimate that these tariffs will raise U.S. car prices by $4,000 to $15,000 per vehicle. But rather than encouraging Americans to buy American, the high cost and poor fuel efficiency of some domestic models may do just the opposite. Fear and flight in immigrant communities. For the past 2 months, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has struck fear into Latin American immigrant communities. Min, a friend of mine who owns 2 restaurants in Seattle, told me his Mexican workers are too scared to go to work or even eat out. His business is suffering. Even legal immigrants with green cards now live in constant fear. Some of our Mexican tenants, terrified ICE might knock on their doors at night, have vanished without a word, leaving behind apartments and uncertainty. For 30 years, the 3,000 apartments managed by my company have been a refuge for refugees from Vietnam through HO and ODP programs, Iraq, Nepal, Africa, and Afghanistan. We worked with immigration agencies to house and employ them. Many found their American dream here. But those programs have now been dismantled. Funding has been slashed. Staff laid off. Refugees are left stranded. Government aid exhausted. Jobs unavailable. Economic chill around Washington. Living near Washington, D.C., I felt the economic cold front set in. The region, once buoyed by well-paying government jobs, is faltering. When the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and billionaire Elon Musk stepped in, workers would turn on their laptops only to find emails notifying them they were laid off. According to the Washington Post, more than 13,000 workers in the DMV area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, have filed for unemployment since the beginning of the year. No doubt, many of them were Republican voters now tasting the bitter fruits of their own choosing. Ethel, A nurse in the apartment opposite my office told me sadly, I lost my job. The 2 patients I cared for were evicted last week. I'll be late on rent this month. Please waive the late fee for me. Global influence in retreat. Analysts warn that these tariffs will ultimately raise prices, weaken American manufacturers, and erode the U.S.'s global influence. As journalist Alan Rapport wrote in The Washington Post, tariffs are forcing Americans to swallow ever-rising costs. President Trump admits tariff policy will bring challenges, but promises historic prosperity. President Donald Trump has acknowledged that his newly announced tariff policy will bring short-term challenges for Americans, but he promises it will lead to historic levels of investment and prosperity. We used to be a punching bag, helplessly taking hits, but that's no longer the case. We are bringing back jobs and businesses like never before. This is an economic revolution, and we will win. Be patient. It won't be easy, but the end result will be historic, President Trump wrote on Truth Social on April 5th. Earlier this week, Trump unveiled a sweeping new tariff policy affecting over 180 trading partners around the world. The plan includes a 10% tariff on nearly all imported goods into the U.S., effective April 5th, while higher tariffs ranging from 15% to 50% on about 60 countries and territories are set to take effect on April 9th. The Trump administration invoked emergency economic powers to address what it describes as America's chronic trade deficit, blaming it on a lack of reciprocity in trade relations and issues such as excessively high value-added taxes in other countries. Although the staggered implementation of these tariffs is meant to allow time for negotiations, experts warn of possible retaliation. If countries do not reach favorable agreements, they may retaliate, as China already has, Oxford Economics cautioned. China responded almost immediately, slapping a 34% tariff on American goods and announcing plans to file a complaint against the U.S. with the World Trade Organization, WTO. Beijing also vowed to restrict the export of rare earth elements, key components in medical and advanced electronic technologies. EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic stated that the bloc would thoroughly evaluate the situation and remains open to negotiations, but emphasized that we will not sit idly by. Meanwhile, public sentiment in the U.S. is mixed. According to a recent Reuters Ipsos poll of nearly 1,500 American adults, 52% believe the increased tariffs on cars and auto parts will negatively affect their families. A similar percentage say the new tariffs will do more harm than good. Just over 30% support the new policy, with most of the support coming from Republican voters. UK and France in talks to deploy security forces to Ukraine, says Zelensky. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced significant progress in discussions with the United Kingdom and France regarding the deployment of security forces to Ukraine. A meeting between our military and the chiefs of defense from our partners, Admiral Anthony Radakin from the UK and General Thierry Burkhard from France. We are working to ensure security in Ukraine and to establish reliable security commitments, Zelensky said on April 5th. There has been clear progress and the first details on how our partners' security forces might be deployed. I am grateful to all countries assisting us, especially the UK and France for their leadership. This is a joint effort aimed at achieving a strong, credible, and lasting peace for Ukraine, he added. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov reported that Ukraine had engaged in intensive consultations with French and British defense representatives to secure the country's future and to help shape the structure of peace in Europe. The main topic was our partners' participation in ensuring Ukraine's security after the war ends. We discussed preparatory work and operational planning so that the Readiness Coalition can deploy swiftly if hostilities cease, Umerov said. On April 4th, the chiefs of staff of the British and French armed forces arrived in Kyiv for meetings with Ukrainian top officials. The French General Staff confirmed that the visit focused on Ukraine's military needs and long-term support plans for reconstruction and defense capability development. Former Ukrainian MP Olet Saryov, citing insider sources, said that the talks in Kyiv between Ukraine and senior French and British military officials included the possible deployment of Western troops to Ukrainian territory. These high-level meetings have underscored the seriousness of London and Paris in considering troop deployment. President Zelensky emphasized that the talks have moved from theoretical discussions to practical planning. According to Tariffs, France is reportedly considering sending the 11th Airborne Brigade to the right bank of the Dnipro River, a highly mobile and elite unit specializing in rapid response and airborne operations, ideal for protecting critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, the UK is said to be planning to deploy the 16th Air Assault Brigade, known for operations in crisis zones, to help secure Ukraine's southern regions. London is reportedly focusing on strategic interests in Black Sea ports, aiming to maintain influence over regional trade and resources. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer previously stated that several European nations, including the UK and France, are building a voluntary coalition to support Ukraine. This includes offering aircraft and potentially deploying peacekeeping forces to monitor a ceasefire if Kyiv and Moscow reach an agreement. The UK and France have led the initiative to establish a European peacekeeping mission in Ukraine to oversee any future truce. Despite progress in negotiations, the British leader stressed that any coalition must be backed by strong US support to succeed. Moscow, however, has firmly rejected the idea of any NATO troops being deployed to Ukraine under any guise. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that Moscow would view the deployment of European peacekeepers in Ukraine as NATO's formal involvement in the war against Russia. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova also dismissed the UK-French peace initiative as a political ploy to buy time for Kyiv and prevent its military collapse.